What's happening, everybody? Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the conversation on tonight. Welcome to the program. I found an interesting article uh, during the course of doing my research because I read a number of periodicals, magazines, and newspapers. I don't just get my info from Wikipedia. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But this article that I found dated January 22nd from the New York Times National Wednesday edition. Now, I renamed the headline, but the original headline says Adams back in New York City stays mum on Trump. I try to warn people, I try to give you a heads up on what's going to come and what's going to happen. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one. There is a major betrayal that's going to occur and happen on the part of New York Mayor Eric Adams. He's going to betray the Democratic Party. He's going to betray the black voters who put him into power. You all may not want to believe it, but it's coming. And when it comes, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly. Adams is becoming more combative, more conservative, more MAGA-esque, if you please. Just check him out. Just listen to him. You all put him in power. You voted him into office. You all forgot that he was a long-time cop, long before he became an alderman, long before he became the mayor of New York City. Now, let's talk about this article that I read in the New York Times. I renamed it, as I said, at the beginning of the program. This article is interesting to note. And the article was written by Dana Rubenstein. I want to give her acknowledgement for the article that she wrote. Quote, after breaking bread with President Trump in Florida, and then attending his inauguration in Washington, Mayor Eric Adams would seem especially qualified to be opine on Mr. Trump's polarizing first day in office. But upon his return to New York City, Mr. Adams declined on Tuesday to say much of anything about the new president. He had nothing bad to say about the pardons in the January 6th rioters or the move to end federal DEI programs. The mayor of the largest city in the country had not lost his voice. Rather, he had chosen to mute himself. Mr. Adams said that if he had any differences of opinion with the Republican president, he would share them privately with Mr. Trump. Quote, if I do disagree, I will communicate with him directly on them, Mr. Adams said during his weekly media availability. The mayor, a Democrat, had no opinion on Mr. Trump's efforts to outlaw birth citizenship, a right enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. He had nothing negative to say about the president's pardon of January 6th defendants. Rather, he said the Justice Department was politicized. He did not remark on the president's decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accords. It remained to be seen if Mr. Adams would be more outspoken in a pre-taped interview with Tucker Carlson, of all people. Since when would a Democrat want to go sit down and talk with a Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News personality that was to air Tuesday night? People often say, well, you know, you don't sound like a Democrat and you seem to have left the party. Mr. Adams said in a preview of the interview, no, the party left me and it left working class people. I am telling you, he is going to defect to the Republican Party. Now he's blaming the voters. He's blaming his black constituents. He is sounding more and more just like the rest of them, but you all don't want to believe it. It won't be long before he's wearing a MAGA hat. And you know what? Don't you all be foolish enough to vote him back in office. Because as soon as you do, he's going to defect to the Republican Party. Let me read his statement again. People often say, this is Tucker Carlson talking to him, well, you know, you don't sound like a Democrat, and you seem to have left the party. Mr. Adams said in a preview of the interview, no, the party left me, and it left working class people. In 2021, Mr. Adams described Mr. Carlson as someone who perpetuates racist anti-immigrant propaganda. Well, he won't be saying that anymore because he's too busy cozying up to them, and he will continue to do so. Mr. Adams' posture seemed all the more noteworthy in contrast with that of his fellow Democratic leaders in New York. The governor and attorney general immediately declared their opposition to the president's actions and promised to take steps to stymie them. But Mr. Adams is not just any New York Democrat. The mayor, a conservative Democrat, who was once a registered Republican, was indicted on 5 federal corruption charges in September. He will get a pardon. The only reason why he left the Republican Party because he wanted to become mayor of New York City, so he became a Democrat. And he's going back to the Republican Party. He is facing trial in April, just weeks before a contested primary from which he is hoping to again emerge as the Democratic candidate for mayor. He has repeatedly argued that he is the target of a Biden Justice Department conspiracy because of his criticism of Mr. Biden's immigration policies. That's an outright lie. He's a liar just like the rest of them, and he will continue to lie. President Trump has expressed an openness to pardoning the mayor, suggesting a kinship based on the two men's shared assertions presented without evidence that they were victims of a justice system run amok. On Tuesday, around the same time, Mr. Adams was declining to take a position on birth citizenship. The New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced a lawsuit seeking to stop the president's unlawful action. 21 other states joined the lawsuit. So did the city of San Francisco. Governor Kathy Hochul on Monday evening vowed that New York is prepared to take any action within our power to ensure that those born in our state have all the rights and protections that prior generations of new Americans have been granted. Birth citizenship isn't just enshrined in our Constitution. It's key to the fundamental promise of America, she said. Now, let me say this about Adams. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Socialist. Really doesn't matter. If you want to become a Republican, just say that. That's his prerogative. But don't start blaming black people the reason why all of a sudden you're sounding more like MAGA, and all of a sudden he has a change of attitude. And now he wants to blame black people the reason why. The deal was made already. He'll get a pardon because he's going to do what they want him to do. Birthright citizenship isn't just enshrined in our Constitution, it's the key to the fundamental promise of America, she said. Mr. Adams declined to say anything of substance on the topic, despite multiple opportunities. When a reporter asked him about the birthright citizenship executive order, as well as the pardons of January 6 defendants, and the decision to withdraw for the Paris Climate Accords, Mr. Adams offered a rhetoric shrug. You know, there are a host of EOs that were done, Mr. Adams said, referring to the executive orders. And you know what? I do EOs, and people sometimes don't agree with my EOs. Mr. Trump, he added, has given me that opportunity to communicate with him directly on issues we disagree, and I respect that. Mr. Adams justified his public silence by pointing to a desire to start his relationship with the president on the right foot. You shouldn't start out the gate criticizing the mayor, said. He also pointed to the nation's psyche. I don't want to be a part of what feeds the anxiety of going back and forth in this public discourse that we're seeing. So basically he's saying to hell with black people. That's what Adams is saying. He's saying to heck with you black voters in New York City. He's going to betray you. And all the protesting, all the hollering, all the screaming. And let me just stop reading the article and just say this. You know what frightens powerful people? When people organize, when they mobilize. When you take your economic power away from them and you take your money and you don't spend it on them and their corporations and the things that they have. It frightens powerful people because they no longer have leverage over you. And for those of you, you all upset about DEI, don't work for companies that don't care about you. Start your own companies. Start your own nonprofit corporations. Take your skills, your talents, your abilities, and everything that you have and become self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency is the key to survival in this new economic wave. Don't wait for the government to do something for you. Don't beg people to do something for you. Do it, quote unquote, for yourself, as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad always said. Do for self. Because when you don't do the things that you have to do to survive for yourself, don't expect anybody else to do it for you. I'm neither Democratic nor Republican. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to check my voter registration and make sure I'm not Democrat or Republican. I will remain independent, and I vote my conscience, not parties. And as I've said, Mr. Trump is the President of the United States. He will be respected as such. There's no need for me to sit back and bash him and talk about him and put him down. I'm not going to waste time doing that. It is what it is. He won the election. He is the president. There's nothing you all can say or do about it. Now let's get back to this article. I don't want to be a part of what feeds the anxiety, Adams said, of going back and forth in this public discourse that we're seeing, he added. Adrian Adams, the New York City Council speaker, did not find Mr. Adams' explanation convincing. New Yorkers deserve straight answers from their leaders, she wrote on social media. This shouldn't be that hard. When Mr. Adams decided to drive down to Washington for the inauguration, he had to cancel several scheduled appearances in celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday, a decision that raised eyebrows among New York City Democrats. Why? He didn't give a damn about the Martin Luther King celebration. He could care less. You saw how they disrespected Dr. King. You saw it for yourself. No acknowledgement of Washington, no reference to him, no gratitude. And Adams fell right in line because he's going to play the game because he wants something. I want something too. It's called economic freedom. It's called prosperity. It's called health, happiness, success. That's what it's called. And I don't have to be a Republican nor a Democrat to get it. All I have to do is use my mind. In closing out, but Mr. Adams argued on Tuesday that Dr. King would understand. So there you have it. That's the article. I'll be back with a couple more videos right after this. Thank you for watching. Never surrender. Never quit.